The views shared in this episode represent Kelly and Kendra, not our mamas, partners, church, job, or sponsors.
Continue to rock the mic. I shall proceed and continue to rock the mic. That was me and Kendra's jam.
In 1993.
What is it?
What
was it? Okay.
I shall proceed by The Roots. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm about to do a T.S. Madison and eat on this podcast and smack like her too.
What are you having? We all want.
Well, I had a little leftover ramen, but it wasn't enough, and it pissed me off because I was like, the problem is let me speak from a place of privilege. We used to just get free lunch at work, but now we get free breakfast. Problem is, I don't get in that early. So I had fabulous breakfast, which I had to eat kind of late because I got in, got my breakfast, and I had a 20-minute massage scheduled at work. This is talking about crazy.
What job we got?
Exactly. Welcome to tech. So I got to work, went to the cafeteria, made my breakfast, then went to the other building, got my 20-minute massage, came back, ate my breakfast. Then lunch came and I was full. But then the rest of my day was just super high stress and I'm just eating. So to answer your question, I ate a little leftover ramen and now I'm eating a bag of salad. And it's actually not bad, but
They took your free lunch away at work?
no, I wasn't hungry because I had already eaten a big breakfast at like 10:40.
So you got breakfast and free lunch.
I'm having very, very in-depth first world problem issues. Like this is like the height of privileged issues. I feel like one of the people at work. Then I got the nerve. So at work we also have snacks, and we used to have them in these. We have them in something that's a little bit more environmental friendly and less like gross, like where people won't accidentally put their hands in. So it's like these long tubes, and you turn the knob, and the snack comes out. But normally, every once in a while in the afternoon, I want a couple of Reese's Pieces. I get there today, and these Reese's Pieces look like the size of like a pinhead. I'm like, well, where'd these come from? And somebody said, those ain't for eating. That's for McFlurries. That ain't for regular. And I got the nerve to get attitude because they wasn't the regular size, right? Reese's Pieces. And then, I was a ball of anxiety this evening. And so I am on the pod drinking a glass of wine from the City Winery.
Mm-hmm.
Slow curtain the end. How are you, Kelly?
I mean, my uterus is broke, but it's been broke my whole life. So there's that part. I've deconstructed my office, and today I started reconstructing it. So over here, it's looking fun. So I'm excited about that. I've been nerding out at the Container Store, my most favorite store after Nordstrom's.
This pod is taking a bougie turn. Leatra, Megan, how are y'all?
Well, okay, I'll go first. I'm well. Thank you so much for asking. I am here with you lovely people talking on this podcast, and I got my basketball going in the background. So it's all good. We're good.
Shout out to the sports.
Megan don't never just be focused on us. Always got to be some kind of sports issue going on.
Okay. All right. This an attack.
Like,
Are you co-signing? You got to stay out the middle.
Me?
You got to stay out the middle.
Okay. Speak my truth, Kendra.
I speak the truth to the young black youth. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Leatra.
I'm well. No sports in the background, so it's a fantastic night. I'm good.
Awesome. Just wanted to say we got a really lovely text from a friend, one of Kendra's childhood friends, who's been binge listening and said they had gotten to episode 6 and they wanted to thank us for the words and creation of episode 6. And they shared they're full of emotions and gratitude to us, and that they were still reflecting on the podcast and that we were on their mind while they were journaling that morning. So just wanted to lift up that we've gotten nothing but positive feedback. So thank you to listeners for reaching out and the texts and the love. And we're glad that we are bringing content that is resonating with y'all.
Ditto. I also got another text from a friend of ours from our GNO group. Someone saying it's really good. Like, not that I should be surprised, but the quality is really good, and there's just natural bands, natural conversation. It feels like y'all are supposed to be doing that, and this person is not even in our target audience, even though they're in our circle and we love them. So it was good to hear from them, like unprovoked about the
Mm-hmm.
pod.
Yep.
So I really love, and Kelly and I love, and all of us, the whole crew here at This Womanist Work, love when we get beautiful texts and emails and calls from friends and colleagues and loved ones telling us how amazing the podcast is and how much a particular episode touched them or resonated with them. And like, please keep those coming. It really keeps us going and reminds us why we're doing this. But, and I mean, we would really love if you could take 2-3 minutes out of your busy days and your schedules to write a review for us, because that is really important for the growth and sustainability of our podcast, for you to go on whatever DSP, whatever digital service provider you use to listen to the podcast, whether that be Spotify or Apple.
DSP.
I mean, that's what it's
You
called.
fancy.
This is my world. We ask that you go to whatever provider you listen to the podcast, and in the place where you can leave a review or leave a rating, please do so. Please, it doesn't have to be a dissertation. It could be a sentence or two, but whatever is on your heart to speak about the podcast, please share. It's important that other people besides us hear what you think. And quite frankly, I want to hear the truth too, like the good and the what can we do better,
Yeah.
So this will help us grow as podcasters because we're new to this as well. Anything you want to add, Kelly?
No, just thank you for listening, and your feedback, gives us more ideas of content and keeps us motivated and excited to keep going.
Oh yeah, by the way, speaking of ideas, like we have an email and website and we have an IG page, and like if you find This Womanist Work and if you feel it upon your heart and you want to share something, if you want to come to our IG page and our inbox, This Womanist Work podcast, I think it is. Is that what it is?
This Womanist Work Pod.
This Womanist Work Pod. This Womanist Work Pod. You want to hit us up in the IG, in the comments, or in our direct messages. You have an idea for somebody you want to hear or a topic you want to hear about, you want to hear us talk about, please feel free. Like, this is why we are here. Anything else? Any other media we should ask them to hit us up? Oh, Facebook, This Womanist Work podcast.
That's for our senior saints.
And my producer is telling me to look in the chat, and I never look in the chat. But I'm gonna look in the chat. No, she's not telling me to look in the chat. There's the one time where I look in the chat and there's nothing in the chat. So, yes, I'm gonna keep it open though, because I never listen to pay attention to the chat.
It's This Womanist Work podcast at gmail.com for the emails, for those of you who would like to email.
Thank you. That is our producer, Dr. Leatra Tate.
Shout out. Awesome.
And Megan is throwing up the deuces, just so y'all know. And Megan is our media producer, social media manager, media producer. What is your title, Megan?
I am the social media manager for this fine establishment.
Awesome. Megan is also here, so the whole crew is here. We are a Black woman led and organized and managed organization.
I know that's right. Yes. I'd love to start out just to, Meg and Leatra, y'all, we pulled you into the last episode, and I just wanted to know, how was that for y'all now that it's been a couple days and everyone's heard the episode? Did you have any reactions, or did any of your friends and family reach out to y'all?
Great question.
I love that episode. It was my favorite episode. It was kind of like sitting in a bit of a dream, if you will, like a dream that I've had, as far as like a feeling of acceptance from a world that I have known to not be very accepting. So to hear a conversation from women who grew up in the church being as open-minded and as open to um, the LGBTQ community as you all have been, to have kind of a whole episode in a way centered around that, I think was really awesome. It was just really cool to hear. So that was my reaction. I loved it.
Thank you.
Ashe.
Ashe.
I think for me, and we actually ended up talking quite a bit about sisterhood after that, and what that's like, what the difference is between maybe someone who grew up with that or who felt that early on, because that comes through so much in you all's episodes, and we get to bear witness, which is a beautiful thing, to you all's sisterhood kind of coming back around in these conversations. And so we kind of reflected, Meg and I, together and individually, I'll say for myself, around like sisterhood and all the sisterhoods that I've been a part of, the sisterhoods that have been really important to me in my development. And as I shared in that episode, I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't grow up with a church community. But I know from friends and family who have grown up in that community how impactful those communities were for them in both positive and negative ways. And so it was really cool to see that, and to be able to engage in a conversation that I haven't necessarily had a chance to engage in. And that episode got me thinking, not necessarily that anyone in my family had a chance, like reached out to me about it, but I could reach out to some of my super hyper religious family members and engage in some of those conversations. And it may not go well. I highly doubt it'll go as well as, this conversation went for the episode, but it gave
Yeah.
me that opportunity to uh, imagine and dream of what that could be like when we do have those
Mm,
conversations more openly and when we open ourselves up to them. So, uh, yeah, I felt really, really full after that episode recording. And I didn't
mhm.
prepare. I wasn't prepared for us to speak as much as we did, but I am grateful to you all for like giving us that space to dream with you all, and not just dream but actually like commit to working towards this future that we would
Yeah.
like to see.
Hmm. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I think it was important that we had that conversation amongst like me, Danelle, our guest, and Kelly, but I also because I think it is time for Black straight women, or or I want to get to a little bit about why like I felt like the spirit of Bell Hooks was in that conversation, but it was also important when Kelly introduced y'all into the conversation because it's like you don't want to be talking around somebody when they're there in the room. And so I thought it was a beautiful episode. And it reminded me how there was a period of time when I was really starting to come to grips and understand and really resonate with Bell Hooks when she called herself queer but not gay, and that like she identified as politically queer in solidarity with her sisters. If that it felt like that, it felt like my way of viewing the world, my way of viewing the church, my politic, and all those things is like a queering of it all as a Black feminist, and in solidarity with my sisters. And so I thought that, and I still think, even in this particular moment, that our relationship and our crew, what we're building together with this woman's work, is definitely in the spirit of that. And so I feel very blessed
Yeah.
to have a part.
Hmm. Yeah. I felt like it was just I appreciate being able to have the conversations that other people want to have, right? I think this what we're hoping to build here is a space of not just inclusion, but like a space of depth and nuance, because nuance is Kendra's favorite word. Because, I was raised to be homophobic, right? I was raised Pentecostal. Um, and I don't think any of my family members would consider themselves to be hateful humans, right? That they love everyone. But this kind of that old 80s tolerance energy, that's not it. That's not the future that we're trying to build. And so I think for those of us who have been deconstructing our faith and really trying to figure out what do we actually believe, versus what we were raised to believe or taught to believe. I think there's a lot of things that were just very unsettling, and they were unsettling for me. My pastor often talks about her daughter, as a very young child, asked her, she was like devastated because it clicked for her that according to their faith tradition at the time, that her little friend who was Jewish was going to go to hell. And she said for her as a parent, it was that moment. She was like, well, wait a minute, why is he going to hell? And she was like, because he's Jewish. He doesn't believe that Jesus is the Messiah, right? And even as a very young child, she was distraught about that. And it led them on a journey that I'm now a member of the United Church of Christ denomination, because it is rooted in justice and is rooted in an acknowledgement that there is more than one way, and that we have to honor people's traditions and the love that lives within them. So,
And again, I say Ashe.
Ashe. Cute comment. Interesting side note. There was a young person at a presentation I just had, and my pastor was there. We have a retreat center, and she said something about Ashe, and the young woman came up to me after, and she was like, "You say Ashe at your church?" We do. And she was like, I want to come to your church. And I was like, okay. She's like, no, I'm serious. she was like, she was like, I've been searching for a Christian community that accepts my Blackness and all that it is. And I was like, don't talk to me. Don't talk to Reverend Vanessa. I'm not the pastor. But they were over in the corner, and, you just never know how you being verbal and vocal about what you believe in these spaces will be a sign of welcome to people who've not felt like they had a place to be and belong. So what are we getting into tonight, Kendra?
I'm tired of talking about the same stuff, but
Are you?
I mean, did y'all see what's his face? Oh, I gotta do my Duolingo. It just popped up, my little notification. Did y'all see? I know, squirrel. Did y'all see what's his face? Jimmy Swaggart's Spawn.
Who is Jimmy Swaggart? The evangelical preacher?
Yes. Did you see his son and his foolishness?
I did not.
He basically said, He's like, I know if I say this, I'm gonna come off racist. But basically, he was complaining about the black church, because Bishop Sheard, I think Bishop Sheard might have said that he was voting for Kamala Harris or something, and he was saying that the black church has strayed from the spirit of the Lord or whatever, spirit strayed from Jesus because they cling into their identity or some foolishness.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Looking to take your podcast to the next level? Centering Equity Productions has your back. With our expert team, we specialize in crafting high-quality audio content that captivates your audience and boosts your brand. From concept development to marketing strategies, we handle it all so you can focus on what you love, creating amazing stories. Whether you're a seasoned podcaster or just starting out, we'll help you shine in the crowded podcasting landscape. Let's bring your vision to life and make some noise together. Contact us at info@centeringequityllc.com or www.centeringequityllc.com.
I think, though, Kendra, it's an interesting point, right? Because Black folks are historically religiously conservative, but socially less so, right? I used to say in my job, like, I do this work in philanthropy, but I know at any moment in time I can show up at a nonprofit and see somebody that I love who's receiving services, right? And so I think a lot of us understand that no matter what our our religious identity is, that we need people in government who believe that government's job is to serve the people and to make sure that the people are okay. Because when that does not happen, then we become the government and we become the ones who are making sure that people are okay and the government is not taking care of its folks. So,
but what's interesting is one of the women who I follow, who also is another person who's like talked about deconstructing her faith, Dara Tucker, she does a lot of the commentary where she'll break down something historical, like, and she'll have like a little mini video. And she grew up like black, super religious. I'm assuming like a black evangelical. And she posted today about how she grew up, where her grandmother was like grew up in those spaces where like it was like Republican is for Jesus and Democrats are not. And so that the Jimmy Swaggarts of the world, not their spawn, like that's the kind of people that her grandmothers and them listen to. And there were a lot of black people who grew up in that tradition. So it's funny because like I agree with you. Like I feel like I grew up like that, where people were religiously conservative, but like socially more aligned with with views, because we recognize that we would become and we were like we still did. But there are quite a few black people who grew up in super uber religious households and backgrounds who experienced something different, and there are people who are listening, like there's not as fringe as we think, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people who are listening to the foolishness, like what I just heard. I'm sorry. I know I said I'm going to go off it, but I'm not. I can't let it go because it's like the audacity. I mean, and what's crazy is like some of these people was the same people that was telling us that when Obama got in that we was post-racial.
You let me know when that day comes.
Yeah, but we never believed it. But like the proof is in the pudding.
Yes, it is.
So he got mad because Bishop took a picture with Kamala. And I guess, I don't know if he like quasi endorsed her, which that's a whole nother story. But he literally called out the black church for being problematic, for supporting, what's this man's name? Donnie Swaggart.
Oh, I don't know Donnie.
Cause you ain't supposed to know him. All he is his claim to fame is being somebody's child.
He's a Nepo hire.
All of them evangelicals had Spawn take over their churches and things. So the sheer audacity. But my only hope, and the only reason why I'm kind of glad that he did this, because some of them won't get the message. But there's going to be a preacher somewhere and going to say, "Wait a minute now, Donnie, you didn't cross the line. Hold up." But there are far too many people who, even though they won't support the other one, I can't even say his name anymore, they still support some of the values of people who do support them.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been trying to tell these people for years, these people can't stand you
At all.
They'll let you come and give them all tithe and offering. They'll let you carry on their message, but they cannot stand you. And this man disproved it. He just literally said the black church stands with the party that's anti-God. And he said they're mad at us because we stepping on their toes. What does that mean?
You ain't stepping on my toes. He ain't nowhere near my feet.
We are, based on a lot of the conversation we've had before about Dr. Kia Conaway and like kind of like divorcing ourselves from and like recognizing that we have to let go of with the black church as we know it. These are the moments when I realize that like instead of being where I kind of thought I was, where I'm like, I think I'm out of the black church. I'm out of the church. I don't think I'm out. I think I've just expanded it and it's like I'm the black church too, and y'all can't say I'm not, and like, but it don't look like yours, and I'm done with y'all's. Y'all can roll with me or not, but we're not doing that. Like I'm very much on the we not doing that.
So you still feel connected to church?
I still feel connected to black church, capital C. Like what it represents. Because I know what it can be. And the decision I'm starting to make, I'm not necessarily quite completely there, is to, instead of saying I have to leave out of this institution completely, which I kind of have already, but like leave out of this institution in order to like be whole, that actually like I am too. Like we talk about we make up the body. Like, so what makes people think or make me think that like I have to, it's just the same way I feel about like the whole thing of like, well, this is not for us. Well, who are you to determine like what's for who? It's just like, it's like I could physically, I want to leave the country because I'm feeling like that, but also like this is my damn country too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I guess I'm starting to feel about the black church, and I'm getting angry. Not even just the black church, the church as a whole. I'm more and more angry because of like, if there was ever a time for us to get our shit together, the last 5 years has been an opportunity for that, and it's like no learnings have been learned.
Yeah.
For some, not for everybody, but I feel like writ large, like the learnings have been minimal.
Well, I mean, I think it's back to Tanika's episode, right? The church has become a performance space,
Hmm.
right? Like you're relying on tithes and offering to keep the lights on, and so you got to entertain the people, is what is often happening. You know, you sing two slow songs and a fast song. Like there are actual formulas that these churches are learning at conferences on how to keep people engaged and basically entertained so that they will stay. Um, and I think church back in the day had something to offer beyond entertainment. We went for the community, right? Whether that was I was the fastest person who did Bible drill, or we went to youth camp, or whatever that thing was. There was there was a draw there that was beyond the performance of the service. So yeah, I think we gotta be reminded.
And it's true. And even though what's crazy about that is even though like homophobia and like uh small mindedness about like secular music and all that kind of stuff, like what movies you watch was a thing, it wasn't talked about in the
No,
pulpit
it
as
was not.
much.
We did not preach every Sunday about
Like they
nothing.
preaching about that stuff more now than back then. Like it's like when we were like getting all the things, like when we
Mhm,
had like when I learned how to do public speaking in church and when I spent my entire day and night in church, after doing this program and that program and like cultivating my personhood in church.
mhm.
I don't, and I paid attention. We wasn't talking about that stuff. They
Yeah.
was in the word, and and clearly, yes, I'm not revisionist history. I'm not doing revisionist history. Some foolishness was occurring, including in the sermons. But like, I feel like they talk about this stuff more now, and I'm like, make it make sense. I don't
Mhm.
understand.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm a great reader because of church. Because we had
Yeah,
to read aloud and we read out of the hymnal. Like there are many things that I attribute my, excellence to because of my time spent at church, 1,000%.
absolutely. One of my colleagues said to me today. So one of my colleagues is always trying to convince me that I'm supposed to be a politician, and I'm like, man, I would get put out. But then today he was like, I feel like Kendra, you're a kingmaker. Like there's something about you that like you could be moving so much forward. And the other one of my coworkers said, Kendra, you just speak with such power. It's like the way you speak, people feel like they have to, like move or and I'm like, to your point, I learned that in church.
Hmm.
Like I also have a voice, like a particular
Yeah.
kind of voice, right? But like the way I speak and my comportment is like I learned that in church. The way I speak to people, all that's from the church.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that is missing. And like I said before, we're not creating a fantasy land. There were lots of problematic things that occurred in the church and continue to occur in church. But in terms of how it shaped us as human beings, I don't think that same thing is available for children.
Yeah. We did. We used to feed people and raise money and donations. Like we did a lot of things. My
Yeah.
In my workshops on philanthropy, my first giving memory as an exercise I do is raising money for missions. And it was this blue cardboard
Oh, I had that too.
folder and you had to fill it up with quarters.
Yeah, I had that
And
too.
I remember I was so proud. I filled that thing up with quarters because when it was offer time, I got to walk up and put my thing up there. But act of service, I definitely learned at church.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Are you a Black woman in middle management looking to elevate your leadership skills in a safe space? Then listen up because I have something special just for you. Join a coaching group of like-minded women focusing on emotional intelligence, management skills, and leading in white spaces. In our group coaching sessions, you'll gain leadership skills, tools, and strategies. Plus, you'll gain a powerful network of sisters who understand your journey. No more leaning alone. Ready to take the next step? Visit www.iamkelly to learn more and join a cohort. Let's lead together.
But what's crazy is like people are still doing that stuff, like not the quarter book thing, but like acts of service and like
Mhm.
food banks and stuff. But it feels like press moments
Yeah.
instead of like the regular order of business.
Hmm.
It's like we're not gonna big you up because y'all gave out checks. Like that's like why y'all here, like to like help people, to the hungry, to clothe the naked. to help heal the sick. Like that is why y'all are here. So, but now it's like you want a cookie for doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Mm.
Again, this is not a dump on the church day. And like I said, I'm tired of talking about this stuff. But so much has just been occurring to me in these moments of like very high anxiety about the future of our country and being here, and like my positionality as a Black woman who comes from the church. And like these used to be the moments where like the church, like, and in some ways, like my uncle's church, is still, which was my grandfather's church, is very much like politically mobilizing in the sense that they still take souls to the polls and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But ain't as many souls to take to the poll, and we have to ask ourselves why.
Yeah.
But I'm struggling.
I had a question about something that you said earlier, Kelly. You said the church is performing as entertainment instead of what it's supposed to be. Do you think politics is doing the same thing?
Oh, good question. Oh, absolutely. I mean, part of it is we've created a society that our attention span is about what, 40 seconds? Right? So we've gone from like 2-minute commercials to 30-second commercials, right? People don't have the attention span. Some of that I think is how we, as I say, came out of the pandemic. I think that our well-being has not been great. And we tried to kind of move very quickly back into what we thought was normal, even though normal has completely been upended. And so I think there's like it's feeling very disjointed for people. And so to keep our attention, people have to use antics, right? So, I mean, look at TikTok, right? Like, look at the ways that people are delivering information to folks. It is completely about entertainment. And I think instead of acknowledging that people are overwhelmed and tapped out and then trying to connect with people from that place, we try to just move in that spirit of distraction and just become another distraction. And I don't think that it gives us the depth that we want, right? Even when you think about the electoral process, you don't get people engaged in electoral politics by gimmicks, right? What we need to be doing is talking about the very real needs that are happening in our communities and trying to figure out what do the people want, right? What solutions do they want to see, and are we actually willing to deliver on those things versus performing during election time in hopes that people are going to turn out and increase our voter numbers. So, yeah.
It's interesting. I've had debates with a couple of different people about the impact that somebody like a Beyonce would have on this election versus the impact that Taylor Swift would have, and that's an interesting conversation.
I mean, I do think they forget that Beyonce is not 20, right? Like Beyonce's our age. And I'm not saying all of my friends that are my age are voting, but a lot of my friends are voting, right? I think the people who are completely just over the electoral process is a completely different demographic, to your point, Meg. Um, and I think it's something that we have to grapple with. I mean, I had a colleague I was with this weekend who said, I don't know if I can vote. And that was the first time I had someone close to my age range in my personal network who was really verbalizing that to me. Most of my friends are kind of the I'm resigned to the fact that I'm going to vote. And as much as, there's energy around having a Black woman as president, maybe not that Black woman, right? And they're like, I'm gonna vote because I believe that the future, our collective future, is on the line. And I just sit with folks when they tell me they're not gonna vote off their principle, because I don't know what to say to that. Because I know the impact of 45, and as much as people say it's garbage now, it I don't think there is a comparison. I just think it's going to be exponentially worse. And worse of worse is still worse. And I just try to be respectful of people's, grappling and how they're going to vote. But it definitely has left me with a lot of concern because it's a toss up, y'all.
Kiese Layman, the writer, posted something similar this week. Well, his was a little bit more like, I can't stand her ass either, but I'm still voting for her because I really can't stand his ass.
Right, right.
But still, like, you know what I mean? Like,
It is.
yeah, I mean, and basically the way he framed it is something that I agree with. It's like, I have a bit of skepticism and mistrust of anybody who wants to be president of the United States because you sign up for a certain thing, right? Like, the kinds
Like,
of presidents who resonate with us will never be two-term presidents. They couldn't stand Jimmy Carter's ass for a reason, right? So I, I on that part I agree with Kiese, but I appreciate people who are saying, listen, like, again, also Cori Bush, Representative Cori Bush, who got voted out because of APAC, said, you know, when she told Mark Lamont Hill this week, she's like, I can't say that I'm voting for Kamala Harris with my conscience, but as a strategy, I am voting for Kamala Harris because I know what Trump is capable of. And I feel like that is a conversation that people are tired of, but like it literally is the thing.
yeah,
That literally is the way people have navigated our political system since time immemorial. And it's very true
especially
that
Black people.
yeah, especially Black people. But like even in this moment, like and this is not the first time Palestine has been wrapped up in it. This is the first time it's been as glaring,
Mhm.
right? It's been as on, have seen it with our own two eyes. But this is not the first time Palestine has been wrapped up into this conversation about like the lesser of two evils and all that kind of
Mhm.
thing. And I think that there's a certain like political maturity that comes with it. And at the same time, it's like it's not so much that I don't understand people who are like, I can't vote like that. What I don't understand is like people that keep telling me that. Okay, so what you want me? Are you trying to convince me not to? like, um, but anyway, go ahead, Kelly. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I also empathize with young folks because they've seen a lot of murder
Yep.
on TV, right? Like we had the 80s were rough, like on a neighborhood level, 1,000%. But if you think about the number of wars they've lived through, the number of school shootings they've lived through, um, the number of natural disasters they've lived through, I mean, it's all too much for their young brains. You know what I mean? And so I do feel like I understand why some of them have drawn a line in the sand. Because when you feel like you have no power, and the only power you have is to opt out of a system that you feel is upholding murder in your name on so many different levels. I mean, what else can you do? And so because we have lifted up electoral politics on such a high pedestal, if you will, I think that it does make sense on some level that is the thing that they choose to opt out of. Because we know national politics don't nearly impact our day-to-day lives as much as local politics. But the way that we talk about engaging in civic activity, it's often national elections that we talk about. So we also have created the beast that they are trying to bring down.
I agree. And I specifically understand, like, I agree with you. There's young people, I understand their disenchantment and all that kind of thing. I do feel like the performative nature of politics is on all fronts,
Oh, no, yeah.
all kinds of folks who are voting Kamala, folks who are voting Trump, folks who are not voting. And I think I'm just over the whole thing. I'm not over any, obviously, I wouldn't, I mean, I'm going to call a thing. I don't have conversations with stupidity and foolishness and ignorance and hatefulness. But in this other realm of people who are just like trying to make sense of the world,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just over it all. Like, especially people my age, because we have context.
Yeah. I don't understand, and this is my age, I do not understand arguing on the internet. Like,
That's what I'm talking.
I go
That's
back
what I'm
and forth
talking
with
about. I
people.
don't get
Like,
that.
I used to love Black Twitter for the banter. Like, that was
Yeah.
my favorite thing. But I wasn't going to sit there and like argue and cuss people out on the internet. That was just not, I don't get it, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's not so much that I'm like, yeah, you should move by your convictions. But I'm tired of hearing you in people's comments arguing about stuff. I'm tired of seeing all that. And so like, and I could just get off the internet, but then there are things on the internet that I do find affirming and important. And so that arguing on internet about foolishness and also about people's political convictions is just, I don't see it being fruitful.
I say that about I used to tell folks this about theology. I said, I'm not a theologian. So I'm not going back and forth with you about what I believe. Not interested. Because when I'm on your Facebook and your stuff is in my news feed and what you're saying I find to be offensive or actually anti-Christ, I don't get on your page saying you're not acting like Jesus, right? I just keep it scrolling because that's what you believe, you go for it. But then when I post something, you want to get in my comments. And I've gotten in my comments and said, not on this wall. Take that somewhere else because I don't go back and forth. You can easily scroll, you can unfollow, you can mute me. You got a lot of options, but commenting right here, it ain't one of those. Because we're not having a dialogue. And I think we've convinced each other that when we post on these platforms, we're actually engaged in intellectual rigor, and we are not.
That's how our friend got kicked off of off of all his pages. Of him really believing that he was, because he had a big platform, that he was moving the needle and he was changing people. And I'm like, dude, you're arguing with bots. And you know what he said to me? Yeah, but like people are watching it, and so people who need to hear it are still seeing me make these arguments. I was like, the ego of it all. I said, for someone who thought who talked about being righteous, I feel like you want to be right more than righteous, and I think that's a deadly combination. And yeah, we had a lull where he didn't speak to me after that. But one thing I wanted to say is I remember a long time ago when Twitter was actually called Twitter and not X. I remember I made a statement about something, and somebody just kind of like tried to pounce on me and made some assumptions. And I checked them I said, whoa. I said this, and you've gone here, and you've made assumptions about me, and you know nothing about me or what my intentions are. You know what they said? You're absolutely right. I apologize. And I said, I'm going to stop going back and forth with people after this because this is never going to happen again.
Yeah.
So let me take this moment and save it.
Yeah.
And not to turn the corner, but I mean, Dr. Trustee Cottom, who I follow also, and I think I might have talked about this before, but she put a pretty comprehensive sometimes she does these like kind of long form posts about this idea of research, right? This idea that people said, I've done the research, but they're doing research in silos. And this is what social media.
We all read it. That's where I was today.
And the internet. Yeah, that's not research. And how, like, not necessarily from an academic perspective, but where is your peer review?
Yeah.
Like, who are the people you're bouncing your ideas off of to make sure that you ain't, because I mean, there's been plenty of times where I'm like, I read this thing and people were like, yeah, no. You need that. And this idea that you can research in a vacuum, right? Like there's such thing as being self-taught in a skill or trade, but you cannot self-teach or self-research yourself way into like a critical thinking.
Yeah. And anything can be used for your advantage, right? So I can say 60% of all people X, Y, or Z, and then someone else is going to say, well, only 40% of all people A, B, C, right? We're talking about the same number, right? Because we're all coming from a specific perspective and worldview and way of thinking about things. So I feel like when we talk about data is never purely objective, right? It's always situated in a political and social context. And when we act like it is not, we're not being honest. And two, again, we're not doing the research, right? Because there's many different things that I would want to surround that data point to be able to help someone understand why I feel strongly about that 60% and what that means to the world at large or the thing that I really care about. But we research on Google and sometimes on Reddit or on Twitter or wherever the place we go, and we find three people who believe the same thing that we say, and then it becomes fact.
All data is value laden, and I've always said this. I even science, like people say, well, that's why I prefer science as opposed to social science because science is science and facts are facts. I said, interesting thought. Because scientists told you that my black ass was inferior because my brain was smaller, right? Social Darwinism was considered scientific at some point. I'm always asking who said and who paid them Who paid for the research?
Mm-hmm.
Where does it come from? And and we should have a certain level of like suspicion and everything, not like paranoia, not conspiracy theory,
Yeah.
but of like, digging deeper. And there's very little of that. And that's one thing I do miss about my academic research is like, because I do know that here's the other thing. There's a point where you just stop looking.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a point on my dissertation was like, I can't do this no more. I'm gonna stop looking. So I think I went pretty deep and I think I have some good work in my dissertation. But there is a point when I just stopped looking, right? And some people just do that. Some people just do that way too early, where you're like, oh, I got what I came here for. I Googled, it came up on the first page. I'm done here. My work is done here.
I got 3 scriptures to back me up.
Yeah, and this is the political moment we're in right now. This is like first page of Google political moment.
You said earlier when you were talking about your friend and being kicked off of their social media pages, you said it's not so much about your friend. It's more about the context. You said the ego of it all, and I was like, also the loneliness of it all, right? How many people are
Ooh.
engaging in this way because they don't have people to talk to about this, and they get onto social media and they're like, these are, finally I get to say unfiltered, equipped with my 2 links from Google, all the evidence that I need to engage in this conversation. And now I have people, bot or not, who are responding and engaging. The people want to hear what I have to say. It's that same comment. It's that same kind of like pop culture context of they need to stop producing microphones and headsets for people with the podcast. Yes,
Yes.
like it's the same
Especially the
thing.
men's.
The lonely, and they're just trying to connect. So I think about
Yeah.
that.
It's just a fascinating,
as
like,
well.
because even myself, it's like a lot of my anxiety and stuff, I think is very directly tied to my Instagram addiction.
Yeah.
Interesting. Whew. We was in the deep end of the pond again today.
Megan, I don't mean to interrupt your basketball viewing, but I'm just interested, do you
So I feel attacked, and that's okay. That's okay. I was paying attention.
I had to be on mute to watch that play.
I am paying attention to what you all are saying, but that's okay. That's all right. I mean,
What was her last sentence?
what? Y'all were talking about social media and the ego of it all, and the getting in the Twitter fights with
That's
people.
true.
I do that all the time. I get into arguments with people mostly about sports, but the political stuff I stay out of. I find a lot of peace in the block button. It's my personal favorite thing. As soon as I see something crazy, I'm like, oh, I don't need this. This is not good for my mental. And so, but yes, I paying attention to y'all's conversation. I haven't looked at this game once. Okay, twice.
Now, Megan, I believe you're paying attention, but we ain't got to fabricate.
This is unbelievable.
Tell the truth, shame the devil.
This is the last time I come on this podcast properly.
No, it wasn't. That was not to be a check for you. That was just to give you an opportunity to interject into the conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all. This is really nice. I know the people care about what I have to say, and so I thank you so much. Thank you for including me.
I mean, I know we've been talking about, but speaking of sports, like now that we're on the other side of it,
I'm so excited.
I'd love to hear what y'all think about like the expectation that we have for this next season of WNBA after like the monumental season that we saw, and like, what do we expect different in terms? And I know this is just like a random non sequitur, but we talked about
a
sports.
whole new episode.
No, I mean just a little moment of like thinking about like what's the money looking like next year? Like, I'm obsessed with Big Ellie.
She paying $6,000 a month for rent. I'm sure they're talking about her on the internet right now.
Yeah, who?
What's the baby's name? Angel.
Oh yeah, the only WNBA game I ever been to was a New York Liberty game years ago, and that joint was you could hear a pin drop, and all it was like the audience was just like middle-aged white lesbian ladies just like going hard for their favorite basketball player, right? And then a couple like family members, and they was giving tickets away. And now Big Ellie is that girl, right? And now like the New York Liberty, they had a parade today for them. It's a big thing, and I just want to, I'm just curious from our sports friends. What do y'all think?
I've been waiting for this moment my whole life.
I'm just honored to be considered a sports friend.
Yeah,
I wasn't really talking about you, boo, but it's okay.
I know. Well, I felt included. You said plural.
um, I think so. It's actually really interesting because the players have actually opted out of their current collective bargaining agreement because they are trying to get more money. So the current contract that they actually just signed, I want to say maybe this past year, that was probably going to look like, as far as max contracts go. So for like Asia Wilson, eventually Caitlin Clark, big names, would probably look like something like 4 years, $12 million. That's not good enough for them. So I don't know what the final negotiation is going to be, but they are currently fighting for more money because the growth of the league has been insane. Leatra and I have gone to several Liberty games since it has been turned up to the next level, and it is incredible. This WNBA Finals audience was the biggest audience of all time, and a lot of that is attributed to this rookie class that's come in, and they've kind of brought eyeballs with them. And I'm excited for it. It was a great season. So we'll see what happens. I hope they get their money. They deserve.
Yes. Run them women their checks.
You see how we got Megan to give us broke down the analysis, gave us the data points and all of that. I love it. I love it for this Friday.
Listen, if y'all want me to come back, just call me. I'm here. Okay. I can do a little sports moment for y'all. I'm happy to
Do y'all
do it.
notice you know how many times Megan says something and it takes everything in me not to like sing a song, because I feel like Megan talks in song lyrics. Like, just call me. And earlier when she was like, it was a dream, because a dream, a simple fantasy that I wish was reality, that you come knocking at. Okay, let me stop
Yes.
before I
Yes
get
to the
pinged for like.
wine on the pod. Yes to the wine on the pod.
But I also, before we fully move on from this, Megan will also be launching a podcast talking about sports coming up soon. So this was a perfect unscripted promotion. That's very exciting.
Okay, so that's that's the little promo bonus joint.
I love it.
Sometimes we just record. Sometimes we can record. We got like a podcast and a half going today.
Thank
Here
you all.
for it.
Thank you for your support.
So actually, a friend of mine, who was played in the first WNBA game, first WNBA, for the New York Liberty, and she just had, I think, double knee replacement surgery, but thought it not robbery to show up at the parade today for the Liberty, because she was so touched that they had made it. So shout out to my girl Kim Hampton.
Those New York Liberty fans, they have been there. A lot of them have been there from day one.
When I tell you, I remember when I say the middle-aged white lesbian ladies was going hard for them, and they was the original OGs. Because I used to go to the games, even after I knew Kim after she had already retired. But we sang together in church. Actually, she went to my church, and she was still active and like worked with the Liberty and was very And we would go to the game, and them same ladies. I mean, she had diehard fans. I think her first tip off was like in the early mid 90s. Those diehard fans, even after she left the league, every time she did a jazz show, whatever she did, they supported her. And so I love it. I love to see it. So I'm just so glad. I knew it was a full circle moment for her, because it was 30 something years ago when she was in the first WNBA game. So for her to be, leave, she was just in rehab for her double knee surgery. And for her to be at that parade was special. So shout out to Kim Hampton, wonderful jazz singer, as well as WNBA veteran and legend.
Okay, with the double threats.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I can't wait for us to get a team here in Cleveland.
That would be great. That would be great. That would be great. Cleveland is Cleveland was popular last weekend with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame situation. Everybody was in town.
It was a great time. Great time to be here.
And then after that, like
Mhm.
the next day, they had a political thing that actually Greg, my partner, worked his organization led, and it was a kind of it was the day before the last day you could register to vote in Pennsylvania. You know, we are we are the one of the main battle states, and our region is actually one of the main battle regions in the country. So people have been coming through here, and that next day, Common, who was at um, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Common, Lupe Fiasco, Method Man, and Redman came up and performed at a little 350-seat theater across the street from my job. And One Hood Media, the organization that my partner works for, their action committee, One Hood Power, hosted a political kind of concert, and the three those all those gentlemen performed. And let me tell you something, preserved well. I mean, these Gen X rappers is the vegans or whatever they doing is working well for them. They gave performances like they were at a 50,000 seat theater, and people was those all the women my age and older, all the Gen X women was acting like Method Man was Jesus.
He is the
Like
soon come king.
my married friend who was standing next to me kept saying, "I just want to give him a hug." I was like, "If you say that one more time." But anyway, it's been an interesting time to be in a battle state. Um, and tomorrow, I think no, Monday, Viola Davis is going to be in town. Fat Joe.
Viola Davis?
No, because of the political. No, listen.
Is that
When I
that woman's name?
huh?
Is that woman's name?
Viola.
No,
What the hell did I say?
you said you called her viola, like the instrument.
Viola.
Don't do it
You
like
said
that. Don't do it like that. She already got a
Vi-
seasoned name.
Viola
Bye.
is what I'm saying is all the black and brown celebrities are coming to this region because they want black people to vote. Because from what I understand from my good friend who is a city councilman here and a proxy for the Democratic Party for Kamala, that the state of Pennsylvania will be decided by less than 15,000 votes. That's how tight it is here.
I know we gotta go. I just want to end with stop acting like black people ain't the ones who always voting. Spend your time these last few weeks dragging the people who don't vote out the house. Cause it sure ain't black women. I'm just saying.
Well, I will say this. I agree with you, but I will say this. Last week, One Hood also did well, there was early voting and registration going on at a local community college in Homewood, which is a historically black neighborhood here. And One Hood and other organizations did a kind of free concert and information thing outside just to attract more people. And from what I understand, like they had almost 400 or 500 people come through. Some people registered and some people early voted. So there were I was like, I can't even believe there's that many people here that wasn't registered or other people who want to early vote. So like some of these, I don't know what's going on with the Beyonces and the Taylor Swifts of the world, but some of these grassroots last pushes are actually working, and people were coming with their ballots and showing up and being moved. And so even if all that pomp and circumstance was only moving one or two or three people, hopefully those one or two or three people are moving somebody else in the barbershops. Some people were pissed at Obama, but then there are other people who, wanted to hear rappers tell them that like, hey, this is your time. So I appreciate everybody trying to make that last ditch effort to save what's left of democracy. And no matter what's happened, we're gonna catch hell because we always catch hell, but we got to be prepared and we've got to be more unified. So, yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Anything else people want to say before we call it? I feel like this is a very kind of all over the place pod, but like important nonetheless. But any last thoughts?
Takeaways. Takeaways. Stop talking to the Gen Xers and the millennials because they are senior citizens is my takeaway.
I beg your pardon.
We're the seasoned leaders now.
I wouldn't say stop talking to her.
Spend your energy with the undecided folks and the folks who are not yet sure that this process is for them.
A lot of them people is millennials and Gen Xers too, though. I know I talk about her all the time because I'm obsessed. But did y'all see the episode of TS? And do y'all who watches TS
It's
Madison on
supposed to
this
be
call?
doing takeaways.
No, I have to go here. Megan, did you see the fag talk when her and Craig was on and they was arguing with Mo and Mo was talking about why he couldn't vote for Kamala?
Yes, I did see that.
When I tell you I was hotter than a pan of fish grease.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. It was bad. I
It was horrible. And that's a 37-year-old man, black man.
If African,
From Africa.
right? He's African. He's from like Nigeria or somewhere.
He's from his parents are Nigerian. He's first generation. He actually spent part of his childhood in Nigeria. And he was talking about the Haitian folks. He was fed into the propaganda of the Haitian folks in Springfield. I won't say why. I was so pissed. And Maddie was so embarrassed. She didn't even know what to say. And Craig was just over it because he's still mourning the death of his mother. But it put so much into check for me because I'm like, this is a 37-year-old man who has access to like a platform and knowledge, and like, wow, that really shook me to my core, to the point where I was so mad that I was in the comments on YouTube and I was paying for my comments to be elevated so he could hear me. I was doing something I would never normally do because I was like, this is out of control.
Okay, so I'm gonna change my takeaway.
No, keep your takeaway.
No,
Don't let me change it.
I'm changing my takeaway. My takeaway is that misinformation can happen at any age. That's my takeaway.
Yes. And just a disclaimer, fag talk stands for popular hot ass gossipers. It does not mean the derogatory term that you think it means.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, I think I can go because I think you were trying to give us the floor. My takeaway is I'm going to go back to and expand on what you said as your first takeaway, Kelly. But talk about resources. Use your resources more appropriately in this final stretch, because that's the thing that has really been a through line in what we've talked about, both politically and for the church. Because I know, so going back to what you were saying, Kendra, about Pennsylvania, I'm here in Erie, Pennsylvania, and we've had the church step up be very, very prevalent in this last stretch. We just had Jesse Jackson here yesterday. We have Bernie, and he hosted a forum for Black men. We had Vice President Harris here a couple of weeks ago. She hosted a forum for Black men. One of them was held, both of them, I believe, are held in the church here. So using your resources more appropriately, not necessarily with that presumption that the Black community, Black men specifically, are not voting and you're winning over their votes, with the understanding that historically Black men and women have voted for Democrats and that your resources are best spent in securing those votes and ensuring those votes are for you and your party, not with presumptions.
Amen. A lot of the people I saw coming out of that community college, either registering or early voting, were Black men, by the way.
My takeaway is that sports are awesome. The WNBA is awesome. Pay these women what they're worth. Pay equity is everything.
Yes, sir.
And also go vote.
Amen.
Yes.
Ashe. My takeaway is that Leatra is not that young because she said, you gave us the floor. And I don't think young people say that no more.
From strike this from the pod. Slander and libel.
Let it go, friend. My takeaway is that we need more spaces for sister circles. We need more spaces to have these kinds of conversations. Because even though I'm drinking wine, I do believe that my anxiety has subsided from earlier because of this conversation and not because of the wine. And I'm standing on that, and I'm standing and believing and confirming that.
I love it.
That was beautiful.
It was.
Thanks.
Why I want to sing "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot" though?
I have no idea because there's nothing that says Negro spiritual about anything that I just said. But Megan has been speaking in lyrics.
I love it.
Megan got a little poeticness.
Listen, I'm poetic. I got Riz.
Now, okay, this is not a millennial and Gen Z podcast. It's a Gen X podcast. We don't know nothing about no damn Riz.
That's all right.
Is that for resume? What is happening right now?
That's what the young people say.
Hold on,
Kelly,
did
they
you
say
just ask
Riz.
that is for resume?
Like swag, like little charisma. Like charisma.
Kelly.
I did.
No, Riz is for charisma, like swag. And I only know that because I work with young people all day who do social media posts.
And I moonlight as a
God.
Gen Zer. That's why I tell the streets that
God.
I'm a
Leatra,
Gen.
a fake Gen Zer.
Okay.
You young boo,
Well,
you ain't that
That's what I
young.
tell the people. That's what I tell the people.
You not that young.
That's what I tell the people.
I love it.